Hi, I'm Alan Bresnik, Cable Video Practice Leader Light Reading, and we're here at our Cable Next Gen event. We're going to be talking to Dan Whalen, who is President and CEO of ATX. So Dan, thank you for being here again. Welcome back.
Hey, thanks, Alan. Great to see you again.
Yeah, thanks. Let's get into a discussion about DOCSIS 4.0 and all the various versions of DOCSIS 3.1, which we'll get into in a bit. But first for DOCSIS 4.0, has anything changed materially over the last year in terms of the transition, how the transition is going to DOCSIS 4.0? And do you see any new things happening in terms of upgrading to DOCSIS 4.0 or staying the course with 3.1?
Yeah, Alan. Well, obviously been the talk of the industry for the last couple of years, this movement to DOCSIS 4.0, and certainly there's been really good progress made in multiple elements that make up the DOCSIS 4.0 ecosystem and architecture. Certainly the things that ATX is working on, the 2 gigahertz taps and passives, 1.8 gigahertz amplifier portfolio, upgrading the node portfolio to support 1.8 gigahertz and integration of multiple DAA variations into those products. There's been really good progress across the industry for all of that. And we're starting to see that play out as different operators are moving there at different pace. Certainly we've seen, sort of an enhancements around DOCSIS 3.1 that have happened using some of the technology that's going to be available and part of the future DOCSIS 4.0 ecosystem, both on the FDX side as well as on the extended spectrum DOCSIS side. And, I feel like the industry's got their hands around how they're going to be going forward and have built some of the cost models for this. But, in general, we continue to see people march along with their plans. Certification of multiple parts of the ecosystem happening in the early part of this year, and really more scale deployments happening later on in the year of both DOCSIS 4.0 technology and then, I'd say enhanced DOCSIS 3.1 deployment activity.
Okay, thanks. I'm glad you brought up the DOCSIS 3.1 enhanced or extra or plus. It has a lot of different names. How do you see that impacting the move to DOCSIS 4.0? Will operators go with some enhanced version of DOCSIS 3.1 and use DOCSIS 4.0 modems over upgraded plant, or how do you see that all working out?
Yeah, we think there's a real, we've been talking about this for years as a company that and with the industry, that there were a lot of legs left in DOCSIS 3.1. The use of the spectrum in 1.2 gigahertz spectrum still had a lot of ability to offer increased bandwidth for the customers and better compete with the fiber players in that space. And the technologies that we built have largely been based to keep the affordability portion of this to making sense for the cable operators. They're able to reuse things that they already have deployed to offer better service levels to customers. So a very natural progression here. You're already seeing the silicon, the DOCSIS 4.0 silicon go out and be used in an enhanced DOCSIS 3.1 solution, particularly with modems and some of the things that we've seen, Comcast doing around DOCSIS 4.0, offering increased services using DOCSIS 4.0 silicon in both nodes and in the modems, and using parts of DOCSIS 4.0 as they deliver more of an enhanced DOCSIS 3.1 solution, more like an FDD solution. Similarly, on the extended spectrum DOCSIS side, people starting to deploy 2 gigahertz taps and passives, getting their infrastructure ready. We think they'll start deploying the amplifiers and actives that are available as soon as they're available. And then also the nodes, we'll see the movement to nodes having the upgrade path and the guts, the 1.8 gigahertz trays and guts to be able to support DOCSIS 4.0 when they're ready with the DOCSIS 4.0 silicon and remote PHY cores for DOCSIS 4.0.
Okay, well, regarding that, are you recommending or suggesting to customers that they upgrade to 1.2 gigahertz spectrum or to 1.8 gigahertz spectrum, or sort of hedge their bets and do some upgrades in one and some upgrades in other areas?
Yeah, Alan, we don't know that there's a one answer fits all for everyone, right? I mean, the the answer oftentimes is how fast do you need it and what can you afford to pay? And
Right.
depending on how people answer those things, a rapid move to 1.2 gigahertz high split may be the fastest path for some operators to get a gigabit symmetrical service. It's better suited for competing with fiber. For others that are really cost conscious and want to think about the future and future proofing their investments today, the move to 1.8 would make sense. They can certainly offer high split solutions, and we're seeing a lot of operators think about that more seriously. This movement to supporting 1.2 gigahertz mode and a 1.8 gigahertz amplifier, and having that ready early so that they can really take advantage of deploying the next generation future-proof technology today, but be able to support the way their networks architected and what they're offering to consumers today without having to make vast changes to their CPE infrastructure, and being disruptive inside of customers' homes. That's becoming very prevalent in the way operators are thinking about things, and are all things that we think are really valuable for us to support.
Okay, thanks. Well, on a related front, now, given that operators are moving to DOCSIS 4.0 or to some extended version of DOCSIS 3.1 to sort of give them parity with fiber to the home deployments in terms of speed and capacity, how do you think the broadband wars of the future will shift from things like speed to other things like experience or convergence or reliability, and how MSO is positioned to compete in that?
Yep. Yeah, and DAA has always been a real big part of that, right? Getting digital optical connection out to the node and closer to the edge, and then getting intelligence out of the home and using that to provide a better experience for consumers. I think that the cable operators are going to be well suited to compete in this customer and consumer experience world. Not only did they lead the way years and years ago in offering double, triple play, and even now quad play services for their consumers, they have this great opportunity as they create a more intelligent network with management capability and visibility into all of the actives and all the way out into the home, that the operators start correlating and using this data to create a better experience. I really think they're in a great position to do that. It's a culture change for them, and they need to continue to develop ways to correlate the data that they're receiving from those devices. But I think they're really going to be in a great spot as they move out and get more intelligence. We've been really focused on how we get intelligence into the amplifiers and get more data for them out of those products that exist, and put them in a better place to manage capacity, put them in a better place to roll trucks where they're really needed when there's real critical issues. Right. And I think that that's going to play a big role for them in driving down costs, but also creating a better consumer experience.
Okay, well, we've talked about the amplifiers. Let's talk about the fiber optic nodes. Last year, ATX introduced a GS 5700 node. What other nodes are coming right now as operators go to higher splits?
Yep. Yeah, and it's the GS 7000 node that we've picked up and continue the development on from Cisco. And as I mentioned, we're on track. We're to have the 1.8 gigahertz trays. We have certainly have created solutions for operators to continue with those products in the 1.2 gigahertz world. But the real movement's making sure that they're DAA ready, supporting integration with the players that are building remote PHY devices and being able to integrate those products seamlessly into that platform. Not just remote PHY, but also PON products. So we're certainly capable of supporting a remote LT inside of the GS 7000 node, and doing both at the same time, which gives the operators real flexibility in terms of what access medium they're going to deploy in certain markets. In some cases, they're just going to have a fiber solution. There's going to be consumers that believe fiber is better, and they're going to need to be able to offer that in some instances. So we think we're giving them the right flexibility by creating a model where a node is capable of supporting a fiber-like solution with cable, or an actual fiber solution, so they can go out and market it accordingly.
Okay, fair enough. Let's switch gears a bit. Last year, ATX also jumped into the energy storage business with developing hybrid supercapacitors. Can you tell us where you see that going in terms of that versus lithium iron, and lead acid batteries?
Yeah, so we've long believed that, providing the next generation of technology in energy storage and making sure that it's going to be green, that it's recyclable, that it's clean energy, and frankly, the most safe solution that's out on the market today for operators to deploy is just the right thing. Coupled with the long life expectancy of this product, it drives down cost for the operators over time. And with some of the regulations that we're seeing take place in different parts of the United States around the need for battery backup, for extended battery backup in the instance of power outages, for the broadband providers, and making sure that they provide up to 72 hours of battery backup in some places.
Right.
That this is a great solution to for that. It's fire retardant, so there's no risk of thermal runaway.
Right.
It doesn't burn. We've recently gotten UL certification on a couple of the products that we're deploying for customers today around that, and we think it's a great solution to support operators not only deploying outside plant solutions but also inside of their data centers and head ends. That it's the safest solution and the one that's going to be the most reliable over time and help them drive cost out of their network, and it's clean and safe.
Okay, fair enough. All right. Changing topics again, let's talk about the digital divide. I know ATX has been involved in the ACP program. What else are you doing there? And how do you see ATX being involved in BEAD and some of the other government programs to help operators close the divide?
Yeah, this one really hits home to us, and is directly aligned with ATX's vision of providing more affordable and high quality broadband and media connectivity for consumers everywhere. And everything that we do as a company, we think about those two things: is how are we doing this better quality? How are we doing this more affordably for everyone everywhere? And a lot of that has to do with reuse. As I mentioned earlier, speed, time to market, and affordability. Those things are the things that are driving the industry and what consumers need in order to be effective. It's not only solved by the capital that goes into it, it's also got to be solved, through government funding of the right things. It needs to be affordable for everybody. And, we keep that in mind in everything that we're developing. We think the things that we're doing with amplifiers and nodes that reuse existing products that are deployed today is going to be the best way for operators to keep their costs down, both costs of construction as well as the capital costs of the products that they're deploying. And we also think it's right for the environment. All those products that get reused don't end up in the bone pile or in the junkyard somewhere and need to be recycled. So, that's really important to us. We've been participating in the Broadband Equity Challenge and trying to promote this with younger generations that are either in grad school or just out of school, and putting together programs and trying to bring people in and really doing this through our intern program as well to make sure that we're promoting this thought process with everybody around more affordable broadband for everyone everywhere. We think it's the right message.
Cool. Also, last year, ATX was cutting the ribbon on a contract manufacturing facility in Michigan, making ATX one of the first cable suppliers to the Made in America program, or the BABA program with BEAD. Where does that stand right now, and how much is that needed by the MSO community?
Yeah, it's been one of our passion projects as well.
Sure.
We cut the ribbon on that site in April with our partner Mara. They are now building 1.2 gigahertz and 1.8 gigahertz amplifiers in that location today. We're contemplating what we do with our node programs as well. It has not become clear how the operators are going to be able to leverage this in their attempts to go after BEAD funding. I think this has been widely discussed and played out in some of the public domain. BEAD funding and how people are going to get after it is not as clear as people would like right now. We believe that the speed tiers that the operators are able to offer, both in the 1.2 gigahertz high split domain as well as in 1.8 gigahertz domain, that they are things that will qualify for BEAD funding. And then we need to convince the government that this is a very good way for them to spend their dollars to get broadband to people faster, and more affordably. And we think the cable operators have a great story there. And we want to make sure that we're in a great place to support that. And not only that, but the largest cable operators in North America, they're all in these markets and should be looking to support U.S.-based employees that are building these products for them. We also think that's the right thing for them to do for their community.
Okay. Let's talk about video now. The MSOs seem to be getting out of the traditional video subscription business and working with the streamers more and more. Where do you see this all happening? Is cable still going to be in the video business in 5 or 10 years?
Yeah, it's definitely happening fast. And, I've long said I'm not necessarily sure it's going to be good for the consumer at the end of the day, all these streaming options, and that the bundle needs to be a more prevalent, bundling of all these video services is going to need to come back and, at some point for everyone, whether they love live sports or they love watching whatever they want to watch wherever they are, or they need the local news and want to be and actually want to participate in local and targeted advertising. All of these things are going to be important to the consumer experience. I think cable's got a great way of being able to support this, and they're in a good position right now to be able to support the combined solution that would exist between more legacy QAM and then also the over-the-top streaming content. The product, it's going to drive some investment into new products that we think is going to be good for the industry and good for the consumers. But I think there's more to play out here as this goes on. But no one should be in a better position to do it than the cable operators. They've got all the experience of how to work with this consumer base that uses the video products and has been using it in very similar ways. And these investments will all line up over time as they get more involved in the streaming businesses themselves. I think that they're going to be in a really good spot to compete in that space as it happens.
Okay. All right. Let's pivot to a hotter area, the fixed wireless access. It seems to be catching on a lot. How much of a threat do you see this as being to cable? How big a role do you think FWA is going to play in the broadband market over the next few years?
Yeah, they've been, if you read the subscriber additions for fixed wireless access over the last year and a half, couple of years, they've made a lot of progress going after a very targeted demographic. And, we think it's something cable operators really need to pay attention to. We believe that they're in a great place, particularly the operators as they're pushing fiber, they're doing their fiber edge outs, they're going after RDOF spend. Really taking a calculated approach to how can we reach more markets quickly with technology. And obviously, if they can reuse existing HFC that exists out in the field, their fastest path to going after them is just to compete in a DOCSIS 3 or even DOCSIS 3.1 world with the fixed wireless access providers. They can provide a much better service, a much more reliable service with better speed tiers in a DOCSIS 3.1 world. And really need to focus on that area and getting after them more aggressively. But it's all about getting the right intelligence on where to go with what and increasing the number of passings as they push fiber closer out to the edge and figuring out how they get after some of that customer base. Eventually, it will all come back to a fixed wired solution, though. It's just you got to make the economics work. And I think, the government funding around fiber and reaching some of the rural areas is going to open more and more doors for the cable operators to get after that.
But you're always going to need a wire to make all of this work, right?
Yeah, eventually I think you need wires really, really close or even into the home and business to make all of it work. Okay,
fair enough. Okay, Dan, we covered a lot of ground here. Anything we missed? Anything else that you wanted to talk about?
No, it's been great. We're still really bullish on the cable operator's position and how we can take HFC and add fiber to it opportunistically to create a better solution for consumers and businesses, and think that they're in a great place to capitalize on this. We hope that there's much faster movement to some of the the new technology to make sure that they maintain their competitive edge in the space and not lose sight of their advantages around speed and affordability.
Okay. Well, Dan, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah. Thanks, Alan. Appreciate it.
Sure.